Well, one of my nieces has gone back to slavery. I do know that I'm the grandson of a slave, which is a little different from my generation, but my father lived to be 99, and I always presumed that he was a child of the farmer and whoever my grandmother was, because she was born a slave. So it's usually someone my age is not usually 3 generations removed from slavery, and I am, and I take it very seriously. I was at Gorée Island in Senegal, and I had a chance to buy a slave bracelet, and I have one that I cherish very much.
I did a film on Gorée Island with
did?
Archbishop Tutu and John Hope Franklin.
Oh, yes, yeah.
And spent quite a bit of time there. It's
yeah, I was
amazing.
in Addis Ababa with Archbishop Tutu and his wife when the All Africa Council of Churches had its quadrennial meeting that lasted a century, a couple of years ago anyway, I guess 1998.
You say that you take it very seriously, that you are your heritage of slavery. What do you mean by that?
Well, that I never forget what we went through to come as far as we have. And I guess I'm a subscriber to what I call the Jewish mystique. As they talk about a Holocaust, I talk about a Holocaust of slavery in the North and South America, to be exact.
Does it concern you that particularly young African Americans do not seem to feel as strongly about the African American Holocaust as Jewish kids do about the Jewish Holocaust?
It bothers me very much. People without a history have no hope. And I think that's a part of the Jewish mystique, is they are very intense about their history as a people.
And we are not.
We are not.
Why do you think that is?
I think very much that we've been seduced, and I use the word advisedly, by the American way. And we're caught up on things rather than ideas. The things of America have seduced the present generation of young people.
Towards the end, I'm going to ask you if there are solutions as far as perhaps getting them, there is such a word as unseduced, but on a different path. But before we get there, I wanted to ask, tell me about your parents. They both came from Virginia?
Yes, both from Virginia. My father was from near Emporia, and my mother was from Northern Neck, a place called Warsaw, Virginia, just across the Rappahannock River. And I guess I was raised a Virginian by the influence of both of them. My father, when he lived, he was the oldest living graduate of Virginia Union University. He finished Virginia Union in 1899 when the schools came together and formed Virginia Union. He finished Virginia Union, and he was a pastor of small churches and a race man. People often ask me how I came to my views, and I guess I grew up with it. At 9 years old, there was a segregated movie in the town in which we lived in South Jersey. And they had just passed a law in the state that if you had the means of admission, you couldn't be refused. And if you were refused, you could go in. And at 9 years old, with 2 of my older sisters, we desegregated that movie house. And I always remember the movie, The Great Lie, with George Brent and Mary Astor. and they wouldn't let anybody sit in the row that we sat in, but after that they desegregated.
And that strength to do something at that early age, you feel came from in part, your father being a raceman?
Raceman, yes.
For those young people who don't know what that means, would you explain what a raceman is?
Well, a raceman, to my knowledge, is a person who is sensitive to the black and white issues of America. And whenever my father was met by prejudice or discrimination of some sort, he always resisted it as best he could, and he was sensitive to the issues around him. I mean, the NAACP was an early part of my early life, and I lived in a part of South Jersey which was known disaffectionately as Little Georgia. If you drew a straight line of the Mason-Dixon line, it would run across South Jersey. And in my time, I have seen signs in New Jersey, no colored after dark. And I remember my oldest brother and his friend. They were both on the varsity basketball team of our high school, Merchantville High School, and they went to Gloucester, New Jersey, to play. And they wouldn't let them off the bus. They had to stay on the bus while their teammates played the game without them in Gloucester. Gloucester was a city, a town that black folks could not go to. I don't know whether it's still that way, but I know in my time it was. You couldn't go to Gloucester, not for any reason. If
you did, what would happen to you?
I guess arrest or abuse of some sort. But they just didn't allow any African Americans to come into Gloucester.
I think a lot of young people, not just young people, but I think a lot of people would be surprised in that they normally think of the South, the deep
Yes.
South, as being really where segregation was confined.
Yeah, and South Jersey at the time, I mentioned it was called Little Georgia, was as segregated as many places in the South. There were not signs, but you knew where you could go. For instance, the movie house, I think it was the Park Theater in my town, was segregated. You just couldn't go there. And the drugstore, you couldn't sit at the counter. It was that kind of discrimination.